Hello, Annie.
Hello, Tyler.
Today we want to talk about the intangible versus the tangible, the practical versus the impractical, the mundane versus the metaphysical.
Yes, I love the word metaphysical. In Chinese, 形而上.
I never really knew what the word was supposed to mean, honestly. Just heard you throw that phrase around a lot. So to you, what does that mean?
It's a philosophical word. You know the word meta? It's the original meaning of things. It's beyond its original. It has that connotation.
Right, self-referential. Like, I'm a nerd. I know about metadata, data about data. So when something is self-referential, it's referring to itself. The more common uses I think you're referring to, beyond or after, is what you're looking for in the metaphysical, beyond the physical.
Yes, exactly.
What lies underneath
Yes.
all of this stuff in the world? What's at the core? What's underneath it all?
Yeah, or something above it. The spiritual side of it.
So I heard an interesting expression when I was younger. Somebody was learning about philosophy. He said, I know this guy, he's crazy about philosophy, blah, blah, blah. And he said, does the tree exist for the roots, or do the roots exist for the tree? What you see in front of you, this world that you see, does it exist? Is it the main goal, what you see in front of your face? Or is it really the things underneath that you don't see that you have to discover? Is that what's really more valuable?
So people are debating about American culture versus Chinese culture. The Chinese think American culture is very practical, very commercial, very down to earth, very money oriented. At the same time, it's also very creative. The creativity comes from something intangible. You must have the curiosity for knowledge. I would say daily life is very practical and it's very commercial. But the driving force of creativity comes from curiosity for knowledge. And that curiosity, it's metaphysical. What do you think?
I think that's a very noble viewpoint. Unfortunately, I think for a lot of people, they explore creativity as a means of relieving stress or getting away from their practical life. So it's less a matter of them living in that creativity, whether that creativity becomes a break from the world for them. And I think we've lost some of the power of the creativity by letting the practical world take too much priority in our lives.
Yes, and the funny thing is that when we think American culture to be very practical and very commercial, I came here and everybody told me, you Chinese love money. You Chinese are practical. I was totally shocked because growing up, people talk about art, history a lot, and talk about cultivation a lot. Talk about this type of, we are very proud of our cultural heritage, something that people do for hundreds of years, that type of craftsmanship. And then all of a sudden people say, oh, you Chinese, all you care about is money. I'm shocked. Soon I realized, yes, in America, the Chinese immigrant have to be practical to survive. They have to choose majors that are not so liked by white people so they can be more competitive in these areas like engineering, like math, like accounting. None of these things I'm interested. I don't know anybody back in China that is accountant. They're not my crowd. I think there are two things about China. One is that we have historically the noble class and also the peasants. So the peasants, they lived on the brink of starvation. They have to be very practical to survive. And the noble people, they have left us with very rich history and rich culture, poetries, and all that wonderful stuff. I'm very into that. I'm also very interested in Chinese philosophies. So in that sense, I think the concept that we Chinese are very materialistic was so foreign to me until I came to the United States. I realized that was how the outside world viewed us.
I think that means the Chinese are good survivors. And I want to emphasize your point where you didn't think of Chinese as the most practical people or the most materialistic is when you told me that you could be in a cab in China and the taxi driver would talk about such impractical things like foreign politics. He's not impacted by foreign politics, you know, in his everyday life. He doesn't have the opportunities to trade in the US stock market, but he'll talk about things like that and he'll sound very educated, but he's curious. And that's what's special about Chinese people is their curiosity.
Yes, we can't generalize who is more practical and who is more materialistic. But in the past 40 years, I observed China from like everything was equal and old people talking about was ideology at that time to learning from the West and to become rich is glorious. I do see this radical change.
The glorification of riches.
Yeah, and the influence from the West. Some are very positive, some unfortunately just make people greedy. You have no knowledge of greed to be very greedy very fast. Like once you teach the Chinese how to do capitalism, then they learn very fast.
They'll become a master of capitalism.
They're natural traders, they're natural business people somehow because they use their brains to calculate or whatever. I see that. Unfortunately, I'm not one of them. I don't like to do calculations. So in that sense, I don't think I'm a typical.
The sad thing about what you said about the greed is that greed makes people very competitive, and competitive people can be very nasty to each other.
That's the reason I like to live in America. I don't have to deal with that type of competition. In China, the competition was severe. You know, I left China as a freshman in college and never really worked there. But in our college, we heard stories that some students in one of the best universities would use some chemical to poison
their competitors or their rivals?
Their roommates.
The roommates.
Yeah, and then the roommate became paralyzed. She was about my age. She died like a few years ago, but the whole time she was paralyzed in her 20s. So it was very sad.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Every time I read news like that, another company, the CEO poisoned the chairman. It's very scary.
So this greed for the tangible and for the practical things in life can be very dangerous. And it's hard to say the same thing for intangible. You know, greed for popularity, I guess, could be bad. Or greed for admiration could be dangerous. I guess it depends on what ideals and intangible things are valuable to you. Really makes it how pure-hearted you are.
Yes.
Right? So even with intangible things, you still have to be selective about what's valuable to you and what's important to you.
I eat every day, but I have to eat knowledge every day too. Doesn't matter how busy I am. Every day I need to listen to some books.
Oh, I love learning. I'm the kind of guy that will work on a project. Every day I just want to learn something new. Give me 4 hours to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 3 hours sharpening my axe. And it's about preparation and having the right tools for the job. For me, that is knowledge and that is strategy. And when I work on a project, it's not just about competition or money making or looking better than somebody else. I want to have these tools at my disposal and learn more every day. It's more enjoyable for me that way.
It's funny that when I come to the United States, I talk to the Chinese friends in the Chinese community. Often they'll tell me where there's some discount on things and where tutorial programs for the kids and which kids go to which college, stuff like that. So very practical things or stocks, cars and stuff. It's not like the China I lived, the Beijing I grew up. People were very idealistic. As I mentioned before, they have changed to fit, to survive. They want their kids to be better. They might have given up their dreams, Remember, we went to some concerts by the Chinese. The performers, they're like engineers, accountants, but they were professional singers and musicians when they were in their home country. They were in China. Their performance was actually very good, but they couldn't live with this job. They had to change, and then they have to sacrifice themselves so that their kids can have more choices. For me, the most important thing in life is aesthetics. You want to live in a beautiful world. This beautiful world with beautiful art, nice smell, beautiful song, music. I can't live without these intangible things. I also think that the philosophy is so important. It talks about your values. You can only be friends with people who share similar values. If you have different values, you are not in the same frequency.
And it's hard to find people here to relate to that have very high enthusiasm for classical music.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen a lot of people that say they appreciate every type of music.
Mm-hmm.
If I really like classical music, the other types of music won't be that appealing to me in comparison.
Yes.
People aren't selective in their tastes in that way here, and that the Chinese have a tendency to appreciate arts, but also to be competitive.
Yeah, when you talk about classic music versus popular music, I think my kids all grew up with very popular music, although I counterbalance that to give them the chance to study the piano. So they're also pianists. Each of them also plays an instrument like a flute, saxophone, and trumpet. I remember that I went to Jennifer Lopez concert. It was so expensive. It was in Toyota Center. But then remember that when we went to Sarah Brightman's concert, it was much cheaper, but Sarah Brightman is more high culture than Jennifer Lopez. Yeah, things like that you see here. People seem to have a preference for popular stuff rather than the mainstream stuff, rather than highbrow stuff.
Hidden gems.
Yeah, so people are a little bit anti-elite. Would you say so?
Yes, the popular music nowadays is very against classical music, I think, especially hip-hop.
My American friends just tell me, oh, it's no use for kids to study an instrument. Those kids are considered nerds. They're not popular. It's just waste a lot of money. It's not going to help your kids to apply for college. Some people say things like that to me. They say that it makes sense for them to do sports. He doesn't see the value of learning a musical instrument for the kids.
Yeah, because it doesn't make you popular. It doesn't help you compete in the high school environment. So I can see that it's easy for the Chinese to get carried away with the de-emphasis from beauty and art here, and to participate in the more practical way of life here.
It's a privilege if you have some spare time that you can do something just for fun. You have a hobby just for fun, or you just wander around without purpose. Sometimes it's fun to do things without purpose.
I have an interesting quote for you. If I had my life to live over again, I would have made a rule to read some poetry and listen to some music at least once every week. And that's made by a scientist, Charles Darwin.
That's beautiful. I actually think there's some practical side of being metaphysical or being not practical. You are not stressed out. When you listen to music and when you talk about philosophy, or when you just go do some painting or whatever, actually it kind of help you to relax. And we need that. And the beauty can cheer you up.
Just had a silly thought. What if a philosophy teacher got stressed from his work, or an art teacher gets stressed from their work? But you're right. It's very calming. It helps you escape and drift away from worries of daily life.
Also, I think if you are too practical, you will lose the big picture. So actually, we need to have a big picture mentality. That's how we gain wisdom. So if you don't know about philosophies, if you don't care about these things, how do you reach that wisdom?
You definitely have to have some time to step back and
Yes.
think and not be caught up in spinning your wheels and being always busy. When you're in that mode, always busy, you see the people like that, they look so flustered. They can't articulate, they can't explain, what they're doing or what they're thinking. They're just caught in the moment doing stuff.
Going back to the I Ching, it's the yang and the yin. You have to have the day and night. You have to have the intangible and the tangible. You have to have the mundane, but also you have to live more than that, above that.
And it's possible that one complements the other, like you said. Being more creative could make you more productive.
Yes.
I have my own funny stories. When I was a kid, I did the most practical thing I could do. I went out to get a job and went to the interview. It was a rigged interview. It was with a family business. I go into this rigged interview. I have my fancy resume. I was such an impractical, idealist teenager. I wrote down the philosophy books that I read on my resume, like Aristotle. Right? And I just thought, well, that makes me a kinder person because I read this. So that means I will get along with my coworkers. So that's why you should hire me, right?
Then what's the end of the story?
Well, it was a rigged interview, so I got the job, of course. But if it was a real interview, I wouldn't have had a chance.
Did you ever talk about the philosophy with the interviewer?
No. They just laughed.
I guess that's the last time you put these philosophy books on your resume.
Yeah.
Thank you for talking to me.
Thank you. It's been very fun.